bruh. Look at this dude. Wait till you see the. No, 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 no. Look at the top of his head. Look at his lips.
Naughty Dog is finally back and with a completely new IP to boot. Not a remake, not a remaster, not even a sequel, but an actually new thing. Terrible name aside, some of the imagery shown in this trailer would have been enough to make any fans of sci-fi excited, especially because of the different style focused on a retro-futuristic look, which gives it a more original feel. Besides, it's Naughty Dog, a solid studio that, despite its blunders with The Last of Us Part 2, is still easily described as a studio with massive potential, although many would still argue that that potential cannot actually be realized or accounted for while Neil Druckmann carries on in charge of the direction of that studio. And some would even argue that that potential is non-existent, and that Naughty Dog has attained an insanely overrated status within the industry over the years. While these matters are definitely relevant to the terrible reception of Intergalactic, the Heretic Prophet's announcement trailer, there are more palpable things at play here, such as the look of the protagonist, the attitude and dialogue presented in it, and what those choices obviously represent. Plus, the tacky product placement and the tease of an Hollywood star cast instead of a more classic cast of voice actors, which leads people to believe that this will be yet another Sony game with a needlessly overinflated budget, a cursed AAA trend that is not indicative of growth of this medium, but rather of an incoming crash. I am not the arbiter of truth, but I back up what I have to say and am always open for discussion of these delicate matters. However, I am not going to be wearing kids' gloves when talking about these things just because there's real people involved who work on these games. I believe the only way to improve the industry is to be clear as crystal when talking about complicated matters such as ideological influences, a studio's directions, and the factual realities of the market and of what gamers want. Before we jump in though, here's a little disclaimer on account of some comments that I received in my Witcher 4 video where I did a similar thing to what we'll be doing here. I'm not here to blindly hate on a game for no reason, but I'm also not here to worship developers or blindly bet for one side or the other. So if you are a mega fan of Naughty Dog or Neil Druckmann's and you are sensitive to criticism, then you should not continue with the video because for the most part, I will be laying down the reality of precisely why people don't like this trailer and precisely why they have a very valid reason not to. And no, it's not going to be the nonsense that this fake, distracted, surface-level, brain-dead discourse always falls down to with the sexism or the racism or the goonerism. I will be backing up everything with facts, receipts, and logic, and you can feel free to counter-argue what I have to say if you want to. Hell, if you bring up any good points in the comments, I might just do a follow-up and feature them. After all, like I said, I am not the arbiter of truth. Otherwise, one way or another, I appreciate you all for watching, even if you disagree. If you enjoy the content, maybe consider giving me a like and subscribe for more. As always, timestamps and relevant links will be in the description of the video and on the pinned comment. Now yes, let's get in there. I am a massive fan of anything sci-fi. It's one of my favorite genres and I love the variety that one can expect with it in terms of the setting and the amazing story concepts that we can usually find in it. My love for this genre is so strong that it even affects my patience and tolerance for a lot of stuff. This is why, since its launch in 2017, I played through Mass Effect Andromeda 3 times. I only finished it once, but the other times I still stuck with it for hours and hours, and we all know the big issues within that game. So why is it that I can watch the entire trailer for Intergalactic Cringe, this is what we'll be calling it from now on because seriously, I really mean it when I say terrible name. Like seriously, take a moment right now and actually say the name out loud. It does not even flow phonetically. Anyway, why is it that I can watch the entire trailer for Intergalactic Cringe and not feel any excitement? Seriously, as soon as the character was revealed, I felt like I was at a funeral already. And it seems like I wasn't the only one. In fact, it was the majority of people if we look at the like and dislike ratios across their trailers. And it's also visible in the comment sections for this game. Say what you will about Witcher 4 and the controversy from that trailer, but you can still see a large number of people still enjoying the trailer for what it was and being excited in the comments for the upcoming game. But for Intergalactic Cringe, the response was the opposite, so much so that Naughty Dog's YouTube page uploaded a trailer with the comments disabled. The ratio is real, and I think that we need to have a serious conversation about it. It's almost as if Naughty Dog knew precisely what they were doing, but they did it anyway because their ideological intentions are of a far higher priority than their intentions to deliver the good game that they know everyone wants to play. This is the problem when you have a studio or a game that are ideologically driven. You end up creating things that are shocking and dividing to the masses instead of creating something that has a massive appeal and that can bring people together. The game is meant to serve the ideology, that's the #1 goal, everything else is just not as important. But anyway, I am getting way ahead of myself here, so let's just step back and continue down the road. I'm not saying that this game is going to be a confirmed flop. This isn't the case that I'm trying to make right out of the gate. I'm a realistic guy, and it must be taken into account that much like Dragon Age Veilguard, any game being backed by big money and an even bigger name can still make it, even if just barely. It doesn't mean that it's going to be successful, and it absolutely does not mean that it will be good. However, it can still pass under the table because of its surface look and the weight riding on the name that both Uncharted and The Last of Us still carry, even if it is ideologically influenced with immersion-breaking political messaging and themes or imagery. And even the trailer itself, I mean, the thing being presented here, if you took away the bad character design, which is the main problem that people are having with this game, or rather with this trailer, the rest of it looks good. We have a bounty hunter out in space claiming a bounty on a former crew member of her little gang, the Five Aces. You can see a picture on the wall. There's 5 people talking about 5 Aces. Where did they go? So clearly some kind of outfit that she used to belong to, and then there's these people over there. Maybe they're going to be doing some, I don't know, Red Dead Redemption 1 type of thing where you're out hunting your old crewmates or something like that. I don't know, but it's obvious that there are cool concepts here. It's obvious that the sci-fi setting is something that most people would go for. It's just the character design immediately grabbed people and slammed their fucking heads on the table and said, hey, yes, this is another one. Yeah, you see that pattern? This is another one. And it's just needless. It's the character design and the character attitude. It's the canary in the coal mine of another package of cringe. It makes people not even be able to get past the trailer without whiplash. Because here we are, out there, somewhere in space. It doesn't get any more detached from Earth than this. And then on top of that, here we have an obviously thematic retro-futuristic style being used on the design of the ship's interior, the clear inspirations and direct references to Akira and Cowboy Bebop, and we even have a little cool anime action going on the screen in the ship. Everything is a clear sense of style, a mixture of sleek futuristic design crossed with a bit of bulkiness and classic elements like the screens, the knobs, the buttons, the levers, etc., akin to that 1980s retro inspiration. But then at the very same time, here we have a character design that is trying so incredibly hard to detach itself from the themes that were just established by looking like someone who just leaped out of a modern-day California gender studies class, or a fucking TikToker who just got done shaving her head to fight against the patriarchy, or someone who is about to drop the hottest gender non-conforming pronouns of 2025. Now I know what some of you might be thinking. Wow, a woman can't shave her head anymore without it having to be a political statement? Come on, dude, you're being unfair. And I get it, I do. 2-3 years ago, give or take, I would see this and I would not go as hard. But this year, after all that we've seen, after all that we know, again, we cannot just ignore these patterns. And the thing is, fellas, it's not just the shaved head, it's everything that surrounds this character's design and attitude. It's the director behind it, it's the actress behind her.
And then as far as with non-binary and transgender, I hope that we just start seeing that the future is here whether we like it or not. We need to not just accept it, but embrace it.
And of course the obvious climate that we're in today that just keeps constantly dropping games that follow these obvious patterns that are so easily recognizable because they keep happening and ending up confirmed by the damn studios that chase after these DEI and intersectionality ideology pipe dreams. They think that they're being unique. They think that they're on some kind of virtuous mission. They think that they're being revolutionary, but in reality, they're all just doing the same shit and constantly proving their critics right. We'll go into more detail on the next topic, but for now, suffice to say that this is where we're at this point. I want you guys to take a step back and really just take it all in. This is a brand new sci-fi IP from a major studio in the industry. Whether you have a PlayStation or not, it does not matter. This is supposed to be a huge thing, just like Uncharted was, just like The Last of Us was. Same thing for Ghost of Tsushima, God of War, Death Stranding, fucking everything. All of these games that came out over in the past few years that were Sony exclusive, the praise is supposed to be bigger than the disappointment, and the likes are supposed to ratio the dislikes. This is a brand new sci-fi IP from a major studio in the industry, and instead of the game being glazed with praise and excitement like it would have been at the same kind of event like 10 years ago, it's being met with disappointment, sadness, mockery, or pure ambivalence. And most of us know precisely why. It's just that some of us are willing to admit it and say it with our chest, and others are living in a delusion, or they're seeing it just as we are, but are too ideologically captured to admit reality. So they go into their chambers of copium and come out with the same tired excuses. It's just the incels inciting hatred on women, or it's the chuds mad that she is not a he, or it's the racists mad that she isn't white, or it's the bigots angry that they can't goon to her, or it's the anti-woke crowd getting mad that this isn't being made for them, or it's pathetic losers who think that they're the majority, or just shut the fuck up because it's Naughty Dog and Naughty Dog has only ever made amazing games and this is going to be the same, and so on and so forth. You guys get it. So let's just get real and talk about it honestly, with as little filter as possible. People don't like this character's design, and it's pretty damn apparent why, alright? And first and foremost, this is a character. I don't care that they scanned the real actress for it, they scanned the real actress for K-Vess in Star Wars Outlaws 2, and I've made memes with that train wreck multiple times. I sleep just fine at night because I am criticizing the character model in the game. Much like K-Vess, it's obvious that some alterations have been done to Jordan here. If not to her bone structure, then at the very least to other aspects which we'll get into a little bit later in the video. In the medium of gaming, you can perfectly scan an actor's face into a game since years now. At the very least since 2011, where L.A. Noire scanned dozens of well-known actors into their game with old-ass technology. If they could do it, Ubisoft could have done it with K-Vess as well, Spider-Man 2 could have done it with Mary Jane, or they could have kept the same character model from the first game instead of altering her to make her look like she spent the last 2 years tweaked out on meth, and of course, they could have done it with Jordan A. Munn here if they wanted to. Hair and makeup included. However, the thing is that it's not a technological limitation or an ability problem, the problem is ideological. So let's do a quick little aside here and talk about the harms of ideological influence. In several of my videos I try to bring on this same important topic, which is that the intent to stand out with an ideologically driven message is what's going to fuck up these games. It's what causes these notable patterns to exist in the first place. And I bring this stuff up often because it's very important for people to understand exactly what it means. It's important for people to understand that when people complain about certain things, they're not complaining about the individual element, they're complaining about what it represents. So for example, the primary reason why I am worried about The Witcher 4 is not that Ciri is a playable protagonist, which I already knew was bound to happen after CD Projekt Red announced that Geralt's story was told. Given the role that she played throughout Witcher 3, it was only a logical next step to make her the protagonist of the series going forward into a new trilogy. And it's not that her face looks different, weird in some angles and fine in other angles, in a cinematic trailer that doesn't even tell us much, since Witcher 3 cinematics also had Geralt looking different, downright goofy sometimes. I'm fine with waiting for more trailers or footage where she isn't constantly scowling, because how many of us actually look our best when we're angry or mad? Hell, it isn't even as serious made into a Witcher, which is already a much more serious problem that not only goes against the established lore, but it also degrades the quality and development of her character, a character that already had everything she needed to be stronger and far more interesting than a Witcher through her elder blood, and that I was already wishing that I could play more with back in 2015 during the playable levels as Ciri, but now she's been reduced to just being another Witcher with the potions and the signs and the scenes, stuff that we already had plenty of and that obviously breaks the lore, or the canon, however the fuck you want to call it. Regardless of how much more serious this stuff is, this individual element would still not be enough to break the game for me if I could trust the studio, because after all, we can also romance Triss Merigold and finish our romance route with her going and retiring in Kavir or whatever, which is not in the books, but that I still loved have the option of. These individual elements are nothing to me in comparison to what I see all over their website, their full devotion to DEI, their full commitment to ESG, not just in their future games but also in retroactively applying it to their past successes when we know that they did not exist, and not even simply just their games but the entire studio and the culture inside. They've sunk so low that they've hired an ex-Sweet Baby Inc. activist to join their writing staff and placed her as a senior writer for future projects. CD Projekt Red, as it was, has fallen. The studio culture and the people that brought us the Witcher trilogy and even the best parts of Cyberpunk 2077 are no longer there. Instead, now we have a studio that, instead of excitable pro-gamer language, have a bunch of fucking bullshit about diversity, equity and inclusion, manipulative, politically driven language littered across their website, and they push towards the corporatization of their studio, a place that doesn't even look like a game studio anymore, looks more like a fucking 5-star resort, complete with actually discriminative programs that exclude passionate men from applying to a free ride through game development school with the support of the studio. This is what they have been slowly turning themselves into over the past 4 years. These are ideologically driven decisions that quite literally corrupt everything a studio produces until it eventually is completely taken over. It is from these ideologically driven workspaces that come the worst ideas that are incompatible with what gamers are happy to pay for, ideas that are inherently antithetical to a medium of entertainment and escapism. Ideas such as unappealing character designs, badly written, underdeveloped female protagonists, terrible immersion-breaking writing, straight-up political propaganda injected into dialogues, terrible lore, world-building and presentation parsed through an ideological filter to make sure no quote-unquote harmful stereotypes are being perpetuated, and that diverse cultures are appropriately represented without supposed prejudices that don't actually exist, and are simply targeted and labeled as such by incredibly sensitive committees whose sole reason for existing within these companies is to do this stuff, to find and make problems that were never there to begin with. Further terrible ideas include emasculated male characters, defeminized female characters, and redefined concepts of masculinity, femininity, strength, and beauty. And also, watered down game world settings through diversity quotas and prejudice checks to make sure that there are no unintended disparaging differences between races and genders within the universe, etc, etc, etc. The list goes on. If you want to see more of this, please check out my video on the demonization of gamers. I promise it will be worth it. This kind of HR infested shit eats up at a company. It kills their creativity and morale. You would be having a better time hanging out with a local priest than in the offices at these companies. You would not find the dream environment of a bunch of passionate nerdy people making their next great game. This environment is over when it comes to these big companies. There's still many good people working in many of these bigger studios, absolutely, but they are all quiet and scared. They either conform to these oppressive douchebags or they're out. It's the same being revealed right now about Obsidian. I'll eventually get around to making an update video on the situation there, but suffice to say that pieces of shit like Matt Hansen established their ideology as the ruling standard, not just for the culture within the studio, but the qualities exuded and presented by the games that they make as well. Everyone else can either shut up or leave, or they can leak information out, as they did with an internal email from their CEO Fergus Urquhart over to Smash JT. You guys can go check the video out, I'll leave it in the description as well. This is what studios compromised by these ideologies look like, and there's no doubt in my mind that the same kind of thing is going on within Naughty Dog, especially with Neil Druckmann at the helm, a man with such an overinflated ego that he got upset at people making fun of a guy who said that The Last of Us 2 was the Schindler's List of video games. So let's get back to the character's appearance. Even if Naughty Dog had perfectly scanned the actress's face, which isn't even that far from it to be fair in comparison with K.V.S., Ubisoft obviously did a much worse job. In some instances it seems that Naughty Dog scanned her damn near perfectly, and maybe the issue that makes it so disjointed is the fact that they shaved her head completely, removed all traces of makeup, and got her dressed like a dude. But as it stands, the ideologically driven decision making would always keep them from presenting the character in a good light, because this far-lefty woke mind virus is against conventional designs. Again, harkening back to the beginning of this video, this design was not made to appeal to people, it was made to be divisive and shocking. For example, if you Google the actress Tati Gabrielle, she has various looks that she goes with. I didn't find a single one where she has gone full bald. She does have some where her hair is very short, like this one here, but she also has looks with longer hair, like this one here. However, sadly, she also has looks that would have been far worse than a shaved head, like this one here. So I guess props to Naughty Dog for not going for the absolute worst possible outcome. However, they still had plenty of better options to go for, if it was indeed their intention to make a appealing character. So I gotta respectfully ask right now, if it was not their intention to make a conventionally appealing character, why are we demonized for criticizing the design of the character for not being appealing? I hate this far lefty gaslighting bullshit where it's like, oh, you don't like this? We've never seen a woman before. Oh, you think all women look the same? It's like, what the fuck are you defending here? This is the intended reaction from the studio. From the perspective of the studio, you're just a useful idiot. But anyway, that's all really beyond the point. The point is that Naughty Dog's decisions to make her look like this are just to deliberately strip her of any perceived femininity. Nothing would have stopped them from taking the exact same actress and make her look like this. I've got no idea what was the movie that she used this look for, I don't really care. All I know is that it would have been a far more fitting and appealing look for everyone across the goddamn planet, because at the end of the day, this is the big issue here. It's that they deliberately went so far as to make her unconventional that it stepped away from a stylistic choice to make the character be designed in an unconventional yet cool way, which for example you can find in several games. You got the Borderlands franchise with all kinds of character designs that are unconventional but look cool. There's also plenty of examples all across the hero shooter genre, except for Concord of course, where much like with Intergalactic, the desire to make ugly and unappealing characters was so great that they overshot it and caused people to just not feel like playing the video game, because newsflash, people like to look cool in them. I would also throw in, for example, games that have good base character designs but that allow for more unconventional styles through optional haircuts and outfits, such as Jedi Survivor, Cyberpunk 2077, etc. But anyway, let's move on. The character ended up being straight up ugly and unappealing because of the creative decisions to directly go against anything that would make her design be more appealing or conventional, such as hair, makeup, and other feminine features, all in the name of this retarded and unnecessary ideology that demonizes beauty and femininity or tries to redefine it just for imaginary virtue signal points or for a desire to force behaviors.
You have to force behaviors, and at BlackRock we are forcing behaviors. You know, what we are doing internally is if you don't achieve these levels of impact, your compensation could be impacted, okay?
We're doing the same thing.
And so it's just, you have to force behaviors. And if you don't force behaviors, whether it's gender or race or just any way you want to say the composition of your team, you're going to be impacted. And
it's this classic old tired thing of challenging beauty standards. People are sick of this, man. Like, take this screenshot for example. Newsflash, darling, you said losers aren't most gamers. Touch grass and stop whining about everything that isn't for you specifically. Dumbasses like this say things like that because they think that this is legitimately about racism, sexism, or whatever the fuck other kinds of phobias they've got in their lexicon, ready to throw at anyone that offends anyone else with a made-up, unconventional gender identity. They haven't yet grasped the reality that this is actually just about the games, just about the entertainment, be it a game or a show or a movie, whatever it is. Their IQ has been so fucking decimated by TikTok and far-left propaganda that they can't even fathom the concept of a person who has nothing against women, nothing against people of color, and nothing against gays, lesbians, bis, and hell, even trans people not liking these games, these products. because they suck. I mean, Jesus, their brains have been turned into shit to such an extent that they can't even picture that many of us complaining about this stuff are women, people of color, according to them anyway, I personally loathe the term, gays, lesbians, bisexuals, and from some of my very own comments, even trans people. These people know only one thing, they're fucking echo chambers, and nothing else. 2024 has been a year of unanimous rejection against this slop. It's been a year where a bunch of normies, for lack of a better term to describe just random everyday people who have a myriad of other things in their minds to worry about and have no time to get into all of this stuff, they just go to work, they take care of the house, they pick up their kids, they tend to their parents or their grandparents, they have random shit piled up on a fucking to-do list like fixing the garage door or whatever, and then they like to simply unwind to a game or a show or a movie at the end of the day. It's been a year where even these people are waking up to the boring, repetitive, ideologically driven bullshit programming that they already more than know about, that most of them are more than fine coexisting with, and that many of them even have genuinely no issue whatsoever so long as it's kept itself to the grounds of equality and privacy, rather than expanding it to the point of ideological takeover, which is where we're at right now, where women have their sports and female spaces compromised, where men are constantly berated or demonized for having a dick, unless they're trans men, of course. If that's the case, then they're actually brave and stunning. Isn't it funny how the far left is like, no, trans women are women, and trans men are men. There is no separation of this term. To do so is transphobic, except when they say that all men are pigs, in which case only the actual cis men are the pigs, the trans men are not. All of a sudden there's a fucking separation. And of course, worse than that, the move towards the indoctrination of children through the injection of gender theory and identity politics nonsense into schools, which is probably the number one thing that managed to shift scores of left and center-leaning people into leaning towards the right. We've reached a point where this kind of garbage is all cobbled together because this industry allowed, nay, it encouraged and sought out the politicization of their AAA studios and mainstream, wide audience-reaching video games. 10-20 years ago, you could sit down and play a fucking video game caked in in-universe politics without having a single issue with it crossing boundaries and hammering you, the player, in the head with a constant stream of the message. Hell, you could do it in a row. There were tons of them. Deus Ex, Tom Clancy, Siphon Filter, Metal Gear, Bioshock, Medal of Honor, Call of Duty. Hell, even games like Witcher 2 and Skyrim had plenty of in-universe politics, and they never took you out of the immersion because these elements were there to serve the narrative and the world building, rather than to serve the fucking regime that these games were built under. Some people out there like to say that politics have been in games forever, as if to justify the inclusion of all of this bullshit that's ham-fisted into games now. They're either being intellectually dishonest or their IQ is lower than the fucking room temperature in Celsius. Alright, now let's tone it back down and talk about the problem with the demographics and so forth. Obviously, Naughty Dog is well within their right to create whatever character they want. I mean, holy shit, over 20 years ago they had us running around as an orange dog, and it worked out beautifully for them. But we have the right to not like it, voice our criticism about it, and cross this game off of our lists without being misrepresented by corporate bootlickers and slop slurpers, who like to fucking act high, mighty, and virtuous with the usual shit.
What does it matter if she's bald? Have you never seen a bald woman? Wow, that is so embarrassing. You realize that you're like upset over a woman shaving her head? Like, wow, I have never seen someone be this embarrassing before. Newsflash, women with shaved heads exist for several reasons, actually, if you didn't know.
Shut the fuck up. It's time to step back into reality. The fake-ass virtue signaling, guilt-tripping, and peer pressuring to shut down speech and dominate the narrative over what is appropriate and inappropriate to ask questions about or complain about is over. It was done too much. Now it's ineffective. It's downright embarrassing at this point. Time for these people to touch grass themselves, as they like to say. If you find any pricks giving you this shit, including shill-tubers, I don't give a fuck, send them this fucking video. Naughty Dog is fully within their right to make a purposefully unappealing character design for their ideological purposes and manage to make her sound completely unlikable and full of herself herself in a matter of 3 minutes of footage, all to reject the evil mainstream audience that is apparently filled with hateful chuds and instead appeal to that aforementioned insane minority that is mostly composed of the same kinds of people who were ineffectively shilling for Veilguard. I mean, it's a ridiculously stupid business decision for the tippity top of the AAA market, but it's a totally legal one. Just like it was also perfectly legal for us to invest into that Huck Tua Girls shitcoin scam and lose our entire life savings. We'd be retarded if we did it, but hey, it's a free country. At the end of the day, Naughty Dog had so many avenues to design this character. If they wanted a masculine little Asian bald character, why not just make it a male character? At least then it would be more conventional. A regular guy, no matter if he's white, black, Asian, Latino, or literally anything else, will appeal to a wider audience, women included. Just like they could have also gone with a girl that looks more conventionally like a girl, with, again, the hair, at the very least. Preferably with a body and posture that doesn't look like it's giving Chad Chungus shaving his fucking balls in the locker room. Again, doesn't really matter if she's white, black, Asian, Latino, Middle Eastern, Indian, whatever. An appealing looking woman would not only increase the interest in your game, but it would also get more female gamers interested in the game as well. Because believe it or not, girls like to play with characters that look good too. Why the fuck do you think these dress-up games are so popular? Why do you think that Baldur's Gate 3 thrives with all manners of mods, with additional hairstyles, makeup, accessories, clothes, and facial options? Because everyone, boys and girls included, like to play as appealing characters. And my god, I am so fucking sick of seeing people demonize this very basic human concept and misrepresent it with dog shit like this Dove and Epic Games initiative, with fake fucking numbers trying to convince people that a whopping 70% of the goddamn female gamer population is sick of playing as pretty characters and want instead to play as an overweight, disabled, or ill person in a wheelchair. An initiative that, once again, is not about inclusion, because none of this stuff has ever been about that. It's never been about adding more options, it's about replacing conventional, likable, appealing designs with purposefully unconventional, unappealing designs. And when I say look good, I'm talking about good, not sexy and hot. I'm even trying to refrain from using the word attractive, even though there is nothing wrong with that word. It's just that some people immediately take it down the gooner road. They think that attractiveness can only be expressed through gooning, because they're sick in the fucking head. They say that you're the porn-addled ones, meanwhile they're the ones that go straight to porn. Here's my personal favorite example in regards to this stuff, which is another Asian character. Now, granted, Faith from Mirror's Edge, by the way, great game. Great game! Lots of running, lots of jumping, lots of climbing. You'll never believe it till you see it, folks. You even got time trial challenges in this thing. It's unbelievable. It's the best. I got 3 stars on all of them. EA Games, you gotta bring the servers back for Mirror's Edge Catalyst. I want people to see me on top of all the leaderboards. I got them all. I'm the fastest. Truly the fastest. There's no one faster than me. Bring it back. Seriously, don't make me write an executive order. I'll write it. I'll do it. So yeah, Faith is not half Asian and half black. She's just Asian. I mean, shit, I don't really know, to be honest, if she's got some more stuff mixed in there. That was the beauty of playing video games back when this character was created. Nobody gave a fuck about what race or gender or sexuality that the character was. She was just Faith, parkour specialist, kung fu connoisseur, and free-running extraordinaire. Occasionally, she also grabbed guns and blew the shit out of everyone, fighting the good fight against the dystopian overlords of the City of Glass. All that matters here is that here she is. Cool, sleek design, she's not packing big gazongas nor carrying a fat badonker, nor dressed in skimpy stuff, but she's still a good-looking character. And again, we don't even need to change that much to make Jordan A. Munn here to look better. Like, we don't need that picture that replaces the character with a more Japanese character design, nor do we need to change her look to look more like Faith. She can just look just as she does. All they really needed to do is go for something like this, and things would have already been much more improved. Just like with Star Wars Outlaws, all they had to do was go for how the actress looked and bam, problem solved. And it also probably would have taken care of a lot of their technical problems, because one of the issues with that game is that the hair looks like it looks like a wig. It looks like it's trying to fucking fly out of her head. I guess that at least with Jordan here, we're not going to have that problem. It's just, instead of having a good, memorable character design, we're going to get the most generic, gender non-conforming pile of mod modern-day checker privilege style of character that Naughty Dog could have ever surmised by taking an actress that already spews shit like this.
And then as far as with non-binary and transgender, I hope that we just start seeing that the future is here whether we like it or not. We need to not just accept it, but embrace it. Embracing something and seeing not only the beauty of it in it, but the way that it contributes to the world and contributes into the way that anybody of any gender, race, creed, color can form their identity and can walk through the world with pride and their chin up high, like I think is so important for the generation coming behind us.
And somehow tweaking the character model to look even more unhinged than that by shaving her hair completely off. Now every time I look at her, I can fill my own headcanon, where Jordan was just a happy little university senior living her best life, president of the Kamala Harris support group, organizer of peaceful protests, and an admin of the Disney Acolyte fans Facebook group and casual TikTok maker. Then one fateful day, the fucking elections happen, and oh no, Orange Man wins. Her entire life starts flashing before her eyes. The first thing she does is grab her phone, calmly set it up to record in her bedroom, leaning up against one of her heavier scented candles. She hits record and starts spazzing the fuck out, screaming off the top of her lungs, hitting her head on the wall, deliriously questioning the very essence of her existence as the words of the Orange Man ring in her ears.
Thank you, America. You better believe me, these are going to be the best 4 years in the history of this country. I will usher in an age of common sense and reason. No more of this loony stuff. All the loony stuff is going to get shipped the hell out of here. You know, some people, they come up to me, they say, Mr. President, why don't you open up the asylums? But I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to use your tax dollars to take care of these people in these asylums. I already talked to Elon. I talked to Elon, great guy that Elon, stand-up guy, very successful. He will take them all, he'll take all the crazies, he'll put them all in his rocket ship, big rocket ship, biggest I've ever seen. I walked in, I said, wow, this is tremendous, I've never seen anything like it. He says to me, Donald, I will take them, I will take all the crazies with me, I'll put them all in my big ship, and I will send them to Samperia. It's millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of light years away. Nobody will ever hear from him again.
And then, in an unprecedented move, she shaves her hair clean off. In defiance against the patriarchy, of course, she gets her own ship from the Porsche Diversity and Inclusion program, and she flees the planet. Besides trying to make her look better by simply adding hair, the other thing that I would appreciate is getting rid of the Adidas bullshit. Like I'm in a retro-futuristic sci-fi setting, not in a FIFA game. Get rid of this crap, give her some proper bounty hunter boots. Seriously, if a fucking bounty hunter ever came after me and she showed up bald and with these fucking shoes, I would die of laughter before anything else. In closing, because this video is already running on long enough, I did say in my community tab that I had a lot to say about this topic and that I didn't even know where to start. I'll definitely be doing a follow-up and touching on some of the stuff that I had to keep out. But in closing, you can't change the basic things that are alluring to people. People like what they like, and when designs like these of Jordan A. Munn come along, I would rather if people were more honest about what they were doing. Because if you want me to be completely honest, if you told me that this game is not ideologically compromised, if you told me that Neil Druckmann has calmed down more in his old age and doesn't have a massively overinflated ego anymore, if you told me that he's not the same man he was during 2020 and before that, and you assured me that Jordan A. Munn's character design and attitude are both not ideologically driven features of a politically influenced game and are actually original, unique ideas fully backed up with deep, complex reasons and likable character development that ends up making Jordan a relatable hero, then I would not even be bothered. Because at the end of the day, there are perfectly valid reasons to have a character look like that. I have nothing against people who are bald in real life. I have women in my family who are bald because of, chemotherapy. The thing is that reality is always going to be separated from fiction, and in a video game, if the context is ideological, then this is simply bad character design. There is no other way around it, and the market has already spoken on that, not via money, not yet at least, but by the trailer reactions, and by basic common sense as well. Again, people like aesthetically pleasing things, and while some characters can pull off the bald look or the buzzcut look in mainstream settings such as Kratos, Starkiller, Commander Shepard, Cole McGrath, math, etc., it is still certainly not a conventional design that appeals to everyone. I mean, go ahead, launch a new playthrough of Red Dead Redemption 2 and tell me that you prefer a bald Arthur rather than a handsomely groomed or totally wild western cowboy look, and I will call you a liar. And in the case of female characters, it's an even harder design to nail. It's not impossible, a woman can still retain an alluring face, an attractive body, and then a clothing style and a confident aura that can absolutely nail the shaved head look, but Jordan here is far the fuck away from all of that. She just looks genuinely boring, uninspired, and coupled with the attitude, she looks like someone insufferable. But still, if I had those assurances, I could be fine. I could chalk up the character design as a negative while still embracing the potential of the rest of the game through the confidence in Naughty Dog's abilities to still deliver a good action game. But sadly, Naughty Dog will never be able to make those assurances for people because they are a pipe dream. They are ideologically compromised. The character design and the attitude is a direct symptom of that, and if you look at the drama and controversy surrounding the studio, including leaks done in protest against the uglification of characters in The Last of Us 2, plus the fact that this game has been getting made over the past 4 years, from 2020 to 2024, also known as the fucking dark ages of the 21st century and the golden age of the DEI era, it's of no surprise that Naughty Dog thought that this was going to be the banger of all bangers by being made under these influences. The problem is that the bubble has burst, the activism was pushed too far, and now people just want to return to a refreshing sense of normalcy where games are done out of passion and creativity instead of out of a sense of virtue signaling and propagandized pandering. Anyway, that's it from me today. We'll return to this sooner or later to talk a bit more about product placement, Neil Druckmann, and how overrated his studio has become in a general perception of the industry, and how much of Sony's fucking money Naughty Dog is throwing away on an all-star cast because Neil likes to cosplay as the Hideo Kojima of the West. Also a bit more development into how different visual styles and different genres made for appealing to different people require different budgets and different planning. If for nothing else, then just to further expose how rotten their true intent is and how maddening it is that higher ups in these industries let it happen without oversight. It only ever gets stopped when it breaks the camel's back, and on the way to breaking that camel's back, the fucking lower rung of developers are the ones being fired by the bucket loads in studio shutdowns, project cancellations, and classic downsizing. But that's a topic for another day. For now, you go on and have yourselves a great day. Thank you very much for watching. Drop a like if you enjoyed the video to help out the channel. Let me know your thoughts and disagreements down in the comments, and I will see you next time.